Now we're just going to have a little interview, a little drama here to help you understand even better the Antichrist. So watch now. Well, I can't say I'm delighted to have you here, but I can say I want to ask you some questions because I think there's some people who are watching us today who want to know some answers, and I think that will be helpful. So in that way, I want to thank you for coming and being willing to do this.
And I want to thank you, Mrs. Hickey, for allowing me to be on your program. I know that, well, I was ready for a nap a little earlier as you told those fairy tales of Lord Satan, but I'm prepared to answer your questions now.
Well, I'm glad you didn't take a nap and that you at least got yourself awakened enough to answer some questions. So if you're going to be a little sarcastic, I guess I'll have to be too. Who are you really?
Well, you see, as my spirit comes into the earth, you need to understand that every spirit that does not acknowledge that Jesus came in the flesh is not of God. I'm not of God. That's what is meant by Antichrist. And you've been told that my spirit will come. Here I am in the world already.
And you're bragging that you're not of God.
Absolutely.
Now I want to ask you another question. Where did you really come from? What's your source? You know, where did you come from?
Well, you see, as those two witnesses of yours will have completed their testimony, then I, the beast, shall come forth from the bottomless pit. And I'll wage war with them, and I'll defeat them. I'll kill them. In fact, I'm going to throw them in the street to rot like the garbage they are.
Now, wait a minute. You're not telling the whole story. You're just telling your half. Those two witnesses, oh yes, those two witnesses are going to come, and it's true they will die, but remember, after 3.5 days, they arise from the dead, and so, you know, as I say, you tell your half, let me finish the whole thing. Now, wait a minute, don't get mad at me, because I want to ask you some more questions. Who gives you your power and authority anyway as the Antichrist?
Well, my father.
Who's your
Satan.
Father? Who?
Satan is my father.
You call him your father?
Absolutely. He gives me the power and authority. As a matter of fact, through that power, people are going to be saying, who can stand against the beast? How great is the beast? How powerful I am.
But how temporary your power is. Now, wait a minute. Let me ask you another question. Don't get mad at me. When will you appear? Everybody's watching, thinking, when will the Antichrist appear?
Well, if you look around, my secret power is already at work in the world. As a matter of fact, that secret power is only temporary, at least until the restrainer of the church is off the scene, and what a glorious day that's going to be.
You mean when the church goes up in the rapture?
Well, let them be gone. That supposed salt of the earth, they're more like poison to me.
And so they keep you back. Their presence keeps you back at this time.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you admit it. Well, let me just ask a little more here, if you don't mind. You're being so gracious about answering questions, sarcastic but gracious. Who will help you when the church is gone? You are going to be evidenced in great power. Who's going to help you do that, and who's going to stand with you?
Well, if those partners of yours would read that book that you so dearly love.
Are you talking about the Bible?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, they'd know the answer. As a matter of fact, if they read in Daniel, they would know of a beast, a dreadful and powerful beast. As a matter of fact, a beast with iron teeth and claws of bronze, a beast that will trample upon anything that's left. As a matter of fact, it'll be a beast like no other that preceded it. It'll have 10 horns, 10 countries. That's my confederacy. And as Daniel was studying the 10 horns, he looked and he saw a smaller horn coming up out of those 10. As a matter of fact, it uprooted the first 3. But like no other horn before it. As a matter of fact, he described it as a man with eyes, and it had a mouth that spoke such proud words. I kind of like that description of me, don't you? The problem was...
Not really, I don't like it. Go ahead.
Unfortunately, your John the Revelator actually saw through the 10 horns. He was able to see that mystery and realize that it was nothing but 10 kings who had yet to reign. Now, these 10 kings will serve only but for an hour to share their royal authority with me, the beast. As a matter of fact, their sole purpose is to confer their power and authority to me.
And you love power, don't you?
Oh, it's delightful.
I just want to go back over this a little bit because there are those who are watching us right now, and I want them to understand about those 10 kingdoms or 10 nations that are your confederacy.
Yes.
You know, I see that 3 different times in the Bible. Because I see it with Nebuchadnezzar when he has that dream and he sees the head of gold, the arms of silver, stomach of brass, legs of iron, feet of iron and clay, and it has 10 toes. You know, I see that. Then I see Daniel having a dream that's very similar, only he sees the head of gold as a lion, and then he sees the arms as a bear, then he sees the brass stomach as a leopard, then he sees that iron creature you were talking about with those 10 horns. So we keep coming up with these 10 kingdoms. Then in Revelation, of course, John sees the 10 horns again, but Daniel's the one who really tells about you coming along as that little horn sticking up and conquering 3 of them, and then the other 7 saying, don't fight with us, we'll just come along with you. So actually 3 times, well, more than that, but I mean 3 different writers tell about that confederacy. But you know, you don't get the whole world, do you?
Well, let's not forget, I'm exceedingly strong with the power to devour.
Exceedingly strong with a limited time and limited power. And tell me again, who gives you your power? I want to be real secure about this.
My Father, Lord Satan.
Lord Satan. I want everybody to hear that. Now, let me ask you something else. What geographical location are you going to come from? I mean, if we want to watch today and say, well, where's the Antichrist going to come from? Where will you come from?
Well, let me say, if I were you, examine the old Roman Empire. For out of the 4 prominent horns or countries, there shall be a small horn that'll rise up and show tremendous strength to the south and to the east and to the fairest of all lands.
Is that Israel we're speaking of?
You can figure it for yourself.
Thanks so much. So you will come out of the old Roman Empire because those 10 toes that Nebuchadnezzar saw are part of the old Roman Empire. And then those 10 horns are part of the old Roman Empire. And then, so that's what John is saying. So actually, you're going to come from someplace around the Mediterranean, correct?
You've read the Word. You obviously know.
Some place in that area. I would like to define it, maybe Syria.
Well,
ancient Syria. Would you be willing to say yes to that? You don't want to answer everything. All right, let me ask.
I'd rather not say.
Now, I notice you have your head covered and you have a dark hat on it, so all I can really see are your eyes and your hands. But according to the Bible, you've got a wound in your head. You've got it well covered. You don't want anybody to see it, do you?
Well, it's no big thing.
Well, where did you get it?
Well, you understand that I, too, will be able to perform signs and wonders, great miracles. As a matter of fact, these will be used to actually deceive the inhabitants of the earth. As a matter of fact, they'll adore me so much they'll create an image in my honor. And you see, the wound is merely a counterfeit, something to take away from this death and resurrection of your Christ.
So in other words, now let me get this real clear from what I see in the scriptures. Jesus died and arose from the dead, so you have to counterfeit everything he is to be the Antichrist.
That's correct.
So it appears you're going to die, maybe shot in the head, and then you will come back to life, and so they will say this is a resurrection.
Just to prove that I am as powerful.
That helps me understand where it says that he was and is not, and where it says he is the 7th and will die and he is the 8th. So that helps me understand that. Let me ask you just one more question. I'll say this, you've been patient to answer a question. Who is the false prophet that's going to help you anyway?
Well, as your good book says, he too will be a beast that'll come forth from the mouth of the earth. As a matter of fact, he will wield great power.
Okay, we got it. We got it. Don't tell us anything more. That's terrible.